Roy Mustang takes on Envy. When it comes to revenge scenes that hit hard, Colonel Roy Mustang's showdown with Envy and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is one that burns into your memory. Literally. Everything about it feels personal, brutal, and earned. It all traces back to Mays Hughes. Hughes was more than a comrade to Roy. He was family in everything but name. Always the cheerful guy, bragging about his wife and daughter. Always reminding Roy why the fight for a better world mattered. He supported Roy's dream to become Fuhrer because he believed his friends could change the system from the inside. But when he started digging too deep into the military secrets, he stumbled on the truth behind the homunculi. That discovery sealed his fate. While trying to report what he found, Hughes was intercepted by someone he recognized, Maria Ross, one of their fellow soldiers. Mays quickly realized the deception when he noticed she didn't have Ross's mole. With the cover blown, Ross transformed. It wasn't her at all, it was Envy. Just as Mays moves to attack the shape-shifting homunculus, Envy takes his form of Hughes' wife, Gracia, causing Mays to freeze in place with the image of his wife in front of him. And with a smirk, Envy shot him dead. Mays' death broke something inside Roy. The rage he felt didn't fade with time. It built up, waiting for the right spark. And that spark finally came under Central City in their bid to stop the progenitor of the homunculi referred to as Father. Amid the chaos, Roy runs into Envy face to face. Envy starts doing his usual thing, mocking humans, trying to cause tension between everyone in the group. But Roy doesn't even flinch. He just asks a single question. Who killed Mays Hughes? Envy tries to lie, tossing Maria Ross's name around again, but Roy's done playing games. He presses harder until Envy laughs and admits it outright. Then, to make it hurt even more, he shapeshifts into Gracia Hughes, the exact disguise he used that day. Everything inside Roy snaps. His eyes harden, his hands move, and the sound of snapping fingers fills the tunnel. The next second, Envy's surrounded by fire. Roy unleashes one explosion after another, the flames chasing Envy like a living storm. Envy tries to fight back, shifting into his giant monster form, but it doesn't matter. Each blast lands clean, boiling his skin, melting his body, and forcing him to regenerate again and again. Roy doesn't slow down. He's not fighting for strategy or survival anymore. He's hunting. Envy finally escapes for a moment, retreating into the tunnels, but Roy follows without hesitation. He finds Envy hiding, trembling, and desperate. Then Envy tries one more disguise, turning into Mays himself, maybe hoping that it'll stop him. But it doesn't. Roy burns the fake image instantly. The man who once showed restraint is gone. While this is happening, Riza Hawkeye hears the fight from a distance. She disobeys orders and rushes in. At this point, Envy's already been scorched to a crisp. The body's barely hanging together when Envy runs into Riza and plays one last trick by taking Roy's form to fool her. Riza spots the lie instantly, calls him out, and empties her gun into him before the real Roy arrives. Without hesitation, Roy ignites another blast. Envy screams as the flames eat away what's left of his body until his regeneration completely stops. When the smoke clears, there's only a tiny pitiful creature left, the homunculus's true form. Roy steps on it, lifts his hand, and prepares to finish it once and for all. But Riza draws her weapon and tells him to stop. She's seen what revenge is doing to him and knows where it leads. Roy refuses to listen. He's been chasing this moment for too long to walk away now. That's when Ed and Scar arrive. Ed grabs Envy using his alchemy, stopping Roy from striking again. Roy threatens to burn Ed's automail arm if he doesn't let go. Ed stares him down and tells him to take one look at his own face to see what he's become. Scar backs him up, saying he understands vengeance better than anyone, but if Roy can't let go, he'll end up destroying everything he once believed in. Riza doesn't lower her gun. She says if he forces her to pull the trigger, she'll follow him in the death too. That's what finally pulls Roy back from the edge. The flames fade, his expression softens, and he lowers his hand. He apologizes to his team for losing control. Envy, weak and trembling in Ed's hand, starts laughing again. He mocks them for all of their compassion, saying humans only pretend to overcome hatred. Ed doesn't argue. Instead, he points out what's really been driving Envy all along. Jealousy. Everything Envy's done, all the cruelty and manipulation, came from that single emotion. He despised humans because they had something that he never could, connection and empathy. That truth is harder than fire ever could. Envy starts to break down, crying and shaking. Roy stripped him of his pride. Riza gave him mercy, and Ed understood him. There's nothing left for him to hold on to, so he reaches inside himself, pulls out his Philosopher's Stone, and ends his life right there. His body crumbles to dust, leaving only silence behind. Roy watches without saying a word. The revenge he's been chasing for so long is finally over, but there's no satisfaction in it, just emptiness. It's not just one of the most brutal revenge scenes in anime, it's one of the most human. Because in that tunnel, under all that fire, you see what revenge really does. It doesn't just destroy your enemy, it eats away at you until there's nothing left but ashes.
Just cutting in here really quick, I recently partnered up with Supps. A lot of you might have already heard about Supps before. They're like the go-to for energy supplements for gamers and people that enjoy anime and manga. Pretty big in the community. It's a product with 0 sugar, less than 1 carb, and less than 1 calorie, so it's keto friendly and diabetic safe. So this is pretty big because I used to drink a lot of energy drinks, and it's both healthier and cheaper than just straight up buying energy drinks from the gas station or something. And on top of that, I'm sure some of you may love this, they also have these like very aesthetic waifu cups that of course are anime themed because, you know, waifu. And what's really cool is if you click the link in my description and use my code AnimeX, you'll get 10% off your order, and on top of that, you'll be helping this channel greatly. I wouldn't be recommending this stuff to you guys if I didn't use it myself. I literally drink it every day. Like, I'm drinking it right now as I record this video. The flavors are good, the service is amazing, you get your stuff very quickly. So make sure to use the link in my description and use my code to save some money.
Gon's rage. Gon started his journey as this bright, upbeat kid who always wanted to try to see the good in everyone. His energy was contagious, so much so that even Killua, a literal child assassin, ended up becoming his closest friend. But underneath all that cheerfulness, some people, like Hisoka, Wing, Bisky, and Razor, noticed something darker hiding in him. They call it a monster, lurking beneath the surface. At first, most fans thought that those remarks were just hype for the main character. But looking back, those warnings were more than just talk. They were a quiet setup for what would later explode in the Chimera Ant arc, when that monster finally showed itself. Gon's rage didn't come out of nowhere. It all started when the first Royal Guard, Neferpitou, was born and just decided to test their strength on the incoming hunters, who turned out to be Kite, Gon, and Killua. With Kite sensing P2's attack, he acted quickly and protected the 2 kids from the lunging threat. In a split second, P2 sliced off Kite's right arm like it was nothing. Seeing Kite's severed arm and the powerful Royal Guard standing before them, Gon loses it and powers up, only for Killua to knock him down and carry him away as per Kite's orders. Even with his arm gone, Kite still tried to fight back, but P2 was just too fast, too strong, and too ruthless. When Gon wakes up in a nearby town, Gon convinces himself that Kite was still alive somewhere, that he just needed to save him. It became his entire reason for pushing forward through the Chimera Ant arc. He trained harder than ever, throwing himself into battle after battle, always with one goal in mind, to make P2 pay and bring Kite back. His desire for vengeance grows tenfold when they're allowed to enter NGL again. There, he saw what P2 did to Kite's body. They ruthlessly turned his corpse into a training dummy. Gon finally gets his chance during the palace raid, where he and Killua were tasked to find and fight P2. The plan is simple: challenge the Royal Guards to a fight, defeat them, and drag them to Beijing to bring Kite back to normal. But instead of finding a monster waiting to fight, they find P2, healing a severely wounded human girl with Dr. Blight, that creepy puppet-like Nin ability. At first, Gon is just on edge, ready for a fight, but P2 puts the girl as priority, begging Gon to wait until the healing is complete. This unexpected act of caring throws Gon into confusion, being torn between killing P2 along with the girl and giving them time to save the dying girl. At some point, Gon picked the first option, but held back when Killua tried to reason with him. Gon gives P2 an hour to finish the healing and tells them to come with him to Beijing to heal Kite, to which P2 agrees. After the girl is healed, Gon turns her over to Killua as a hostage, and he and P2 make their way to Kite. Upon arriving at the castle and seeing Kite's body, P2 decides to tell the truth and says the one thing that completely destroys him, that Kite can't be healed because he's already dead. You can almost feel the world stop right there. Gon doesn't scream or break down, he just freezes. The hope he was clinging to evaporates, and what's left behind is something far darker. He realizes that everything he'd done, every risk he took, every bit of pain he endured, was for nothing, and the one responsible is standing right in front of him. When P2 declares they need to kill Gon for the sake of the king, Those words basically seal their grim fate. Gon's aura explodes into something horrifying. Thick, dark, and heavy enough to suffocate anyone nearby. Even Pitou is caught off guard. They can feel that power surging out of him, something primal and full of hatred. The candles around them blow out, and Gon starts changing. His body grows taller, older, more muscular. It's not just a normal transformation. He's forcing his body to reach the peak of what it could ever be, burning through everything he has for one purpose: revenge. Pitou senses the danger and summons Tempest, ready to fight, but by the time they move, Gon's already vanished. When Pitou spots him again, he's standing in the doorway, fully transformed. This version of Gon isn't the cheerful kid anymore. He's silent, expressionless, and terrifying. He tells Pitou to follow him outside because he doesn't want the building destroyed. That's how cold he's become. Even in his fury, he's in control, focused entirely on the kill. Outside, Pitou quickly realizes what happened. Gon's body has aged to the point where it can handle the power that could rival even the Chimera Ant King. Pitou lunges at first, but Gon dodges easily and kicks them hard in the stomach, sending them flying. The impact alone is brutal, and before Pitou can recover, Gon charges his Jajunkin. The punch lands straight into Pitou's face, launching them into the side of a mountain. The sheer force itself is just overkill. Pitou's face caves in, and their body drops lifeless to the ground. But Gon doesn't stop. He approaches the bloodied royal guard and keeps punching, over and over, turning their head into a mess. Meanwhile, Killua arrives just in time to witness the aftermath. From a distance, he can see and hear the massive surge of energy, which appears as continuous Jajunkin strikes. When he finally sees him, Gon's on his knees, hammering Pitou's corpse, and repeatedly punching the royal guard's already shattered skull. Killua calls out to him, and he looks back with tears in his eyes. He mutters that he's finished, that he did what Kite taught him to do. But the nightmare isn't over. Pitou's nin ability, Tempest, kicks in one last time. Even in death, their body starts moving, driven purely by devotion to the king. The puppet-like corpse springs back to life and lunges at Gon, ripping off his right arm before Killua can reach him. Gon doesn't even flinch. He just looks at his missing arm and says it doesn't hurt, that he's actually glad, because now he's just like Kite. With what little strength he has left, Gon finishes it. He grabs his severed arm, stabs it straight through Pitou's twitching corpse, and prepares one last Jajunkin, a massive one, far stronger than anything before. Killua yells for him to stop, and for a second, Gon's fury cracks. Then there's an explosion, violent and final. The entire forest disappears in the blast, and that was the end of Pitou. Among all anime revenge scenes, this one hits differently, because it comes with a hefty cost. Gon lost his nin after that. Kaneki tortures his torturer. The scene where Kaneki turns the tables on his torturer, Yamori in Tokyo Ghoul, is one of those moments that makes a clear point of no return for a character. Before all the chaos, Yamori, or as he's better known, Jason of the 13th Ward, was already infamous among ghouls and humans alike. The guy was a sadist who enjoyed torturing others, not just for interrogation or dominance, but for sheer pleasure. But the irony is that he wasn't always that monster. Once upon a time, Jason was the one being tortured. After getting captured by the CCG's Arima and Fura, he was thrown into the ghoul detention facility, Cochlea. There, an investigator subjected him to endless rounds of psychological and physical torment. The torture was so extreme it shattered his mind. The only way Jason could survive was by convincing himself that he was the one in control. That twisting coping mechanism became his obsession. He started mimicking his torturer's methods and turned cruelty into a lifestyle. When he joined the Algiri Tree, he became their go-to brute, leading his own squad called the White Suits and making a name for himself as the most vicious enforcer in the 13th Ward. So when Algiri ordered him to find Rize Kamishiro, or anyone who smelled like her, Jason went hunting. That led him straight to Kaneki. Kaneki, who was turned into a half-ghoul by Rize's organs, became Jason's next toy. Jason dragged Kaneki into his torture chamber, a dark, filthy room filled with blood, chains, and tools that told countless horror stories. He injected Kaneki with RC suppressant so his ghoul side couldn't heal too fast, then went to work on cutting off his fingers and toes. Every time they grew back, he'd do it again, and again, and again. For Kaneki, every moment was an endless loop of pain and madness. Jason even made him eat his own severed limbs to keep the regeneration going. During these sessions, Jason forced Kaneki to count backwards from 1,000 by sevens, a cruel trick to keep his sanity barely intact while ensuring that he never forgets his suffering. As Kaneki's body and mind started to fall apart, he retreated into his own head, where he found himself face to face with an illusion of Rize. Through these visions, Kaneki was forced to confront the weakness that defined his life. He remembered his mother, who overworked herself to death because she refused to hurt others, even when they hurt her. That same mindset lived inside Kaneki, always choosing to take the pain rather than fight back. Rize pushed him to see the truth. If he kept living like that, he'd lose everyone he cared about. The guilt, the pain, the helplessness. It all piled up until something inside Kaneki finally broke. Meanwhile, Jason wasn't done. In one of his cruelest acts, he dragged in two other captives, Shu and Haru, who had secretly planned to save Kaneki but got caught. He tied them up in front of Kaneki and told him to choose who would live. Kaneki froze. He couldn't make the choice. Jason killed them both anyway, punishing Kaneki for his hesitation. That moment pushed Kaneki past his limit. In his mindscape, Kaneki finally understood what Rize had been trying to tell him. The world wasn't kind, and he couldn't keep hiding behind ideals of self-sacrifice. If he wanted to protect anyone, or even himself, he had to stop being weak. Accepting his ghoul side was the only way forward. That realization caused his transformation, both mentally and physically. His hair turned white, his expression went cold, and the cheerful, naive boy who entered Algieri's clutches was gone. When Jason returned to the cell, he didn't find the same helpless victim. Kaneki calmly snapped his shackles as if they were nothing and stood up with a quiet, terrifying confidence. Jason lunged to eat him, but Kaneki moved faster. He grabbed Jason by the throat and strangled him with his own chains. The roles completely reversed. For the first time, Jason was the one powerless. Jason tried to fight back, but Kaneki was already far beyond him. He tasted Jason's blood and casually remarked that it was disgusting, which enraged Jason even more. They clashed, unleashing their Kagunes in a fight that felt less like a battle and more like justice being served. Kaneki's Kagune erupted in full force for the first time, and it was clear who had the upper hand. Eventually, Kaneki pinned Jason down and gave him a taste of his own medicine. He cracked his fingers the same way that Jason used to, a chilling echo of everything Jason had put him through, and began torturing him in return. He stabbed Jason multiple times with his Kagune, forcing him to start counting backwards from 1,000 by sevens, just like he made Kaneki do. Not long after, Kaneki consumed Jason's Kagune to absorb more strength, leaving Jason broken and terrified on the floor, the same floor where he tortured countless victims. Later, when Juzo, Suzuya, and the CCG stormed Aogiri's base, they found Jason barely clinging to life. Juzo finished the job, without hesitation, ending Jason's miserable existence once and for all. Tempest's counterattack on Falmouth's army. When it comes to pure cold-blooded revenge, few moments in anime hit as hard as Rimuru's counterattack on Falmouth, and that time I got reincarnated as a slime. It's the kind of scene that flips everything you thought you knew about the easygoing slime on its head, turning a peaceful nation into an execution ground and its gentle ruler into something far more terrifying. The conflict begins with the so-called Tempest Holy War. On paper, it sounds like a noble crusade by a Western Holy Church in the Kingdom of Falmouth. In reality, it's just greed and arrogance dressed up as righteousness. Falmouth was one of the major powers of the Western nations, a kingdom that prided itself on faith, wealth, and control. Its king, Edmaris Falmouth, was obsessed with being remembered as a hero king, but beneath the polished image was a man driven by ego and jealousy. Tempest had been growing fast, a nation founded by monsters, open to trade and diplomacy, turning into an economic hub that was starting to outshine the old powers. That success made Falmouth nervous. They couldn't stand the idea of monsters thriving where humans were supposed to dominate. So they came up with a plan to put Tempest in its place, conveniently backed by the church's anti-monster ideology. What followed was a massacre. Falmouth's forces, along with church agents, launched a sudden invasion. They didn't target soldiers. They slaughtered civilians, including women and children, burning and killing over 100 innocent residents. The attack even claimed the lives of Rimuru's closest people, including Shion and Gobzo. The peaceful city that once stood as a symbol of coexistence was left drenched in blood. That's the moment something inside Rimuru broke. He was done playing nice. Every ounce of empathy that he had for humanity evaporated. What came next was pure, methodical revenge. Rimuru soon learned that there was a way to undo the damage, to bring his people back to life. He had to become a true demon lord, and that required 10,000 human souls as nourishment. Luckily for him, the Falmouth army marching straight towards Tempest had a little over twice that number. When the counterattack begins, it's clear that Rimuru's holding nothing back. The Falmouth army, 20,000 strong, advances confidently, expecting an easy surrender, and Mars sees himself already celebrated as a hero who defeated a monster nation. But instead of facing an army, they face a single being descending from the sky. Rimuru launches his assault using a new physics magic called Megiddo. Unlike normal magic, Megiddo doesn't rely on mana or magicules, meaning all of Falmouth's strongest defenses, their barriers, enhancements, and holy blessings, are useless. The spell converts sunlight into pure energy, creating thousands of tiny razor-sharp beams that rain from the sky like invisible bullets. In the first wave, over 500 soldiers die instantly, their bodies dropping before they even realize they've been hit. The beams target vital points like the heart and head, ensuring instant death. But Rimuru doesn't stop at one strike. He unleashes 10 consecutive waves, each one wiping out hundreds more. By the end of it, 5,723 soldiers are dead, their armor still smoking under the midday sun. The battlefield turns silent. The survivors are terrified, paralyzed by the realization that they're not fighting a monster, they're being executed. At that point, Rimuru awakens a new power, the unique skill, Merciless. The ability lets him harvest the souls of anyone he recognizes as an enemy, but only when their will to fight is gone. Once they surrender or lose hope, their souls belong to him. It's the perfect skill for what's about to happen. King Idmaris finally tries to negotiate, pretending to seek peace. Rimuru descends to him, calmly severs the king's right arm, and cuts down the rest of his soldiers. No warnings, no speeches, just execution. And then, without raising a hand, Rimuru activates Merciless. One by one, every soldier on that battlefield, over 14,000 in total, drop dead where they stand. Some die instantly, others only after their fear breaks them from the inside. The magic doesn't discriminate. Anyone Rimuru marked as an enemy is finished, even if they surrendered. Their souls drift towards him, fueling his evolution into a demon lord. When it's over, the once mighty army of Falmouth is gone. The only ones left alive are the king and the archbishop, who are taken prisoner. Even those who tried to cheat death don't escape. Razin, an arch-sorcerer pretending to be dead among the corpses, gets noticed by Rimuru immediately. Rimuru summons the demon Diablo, who wipes Razin out effortlessly, ensuring no one walks away from this punishment. The aftermath is brutal. Idmaris is crushed until he finally breaks. Rimuru doesn't even need to kill him. He forces the king to submit completely. Idmaris eventually swears allegiance to Diablo, who becomes his master. With Falmouth's leadership shattered, Rimuru installs Farminus as the new puppet king, bringing the nation under Tempest's control without lifting another finger. Adonis's revenge. Adonis' story from the Kingdoms of Ruin is one of those rare revenge tales that don't even try to sugarcoat the ugliness of vengeance. It's raw, vicious, and absolutely drenched in blood. The series might have its messy moments, but when it comes to brutality, it doesn't hold back for a second, and Adonis' revenge is living proof of that. Before the chaos, Adonis was just a starving orphan scraping by in the ruins of a world that had turned its back on magic. That is, until Chloe Morgan found him, a witch who saw something worth saving in a boy everyone else had forgotten. She took him in, taught him magic, and gave him what he never had, a family. Their bond wasn't just master and apprentice. Chloe was his world, a mother figure, a teacher, and the one person who made life feel worth living. But their quiet life never stood a chance. The Empire of Redia declared a witch hunt, turning magic users into targets. Adonis and Chloe went into hiding, moving from place to place, always one step away from being caught. That fragile peace finally shattered when Redian soldiers tracked them down in the Solsavian region. They tried to escape, but were captured and teleported straight into the capital, thrown into the middle of a public execution ceremony. In a desperate move, Adonis rushed in to protect Chloe, only to be overpowered and held hostage. What followed was pure cruelty. Emperor Gothi humiliated Chloe in front of the entire city, stripping her of her dignity in front of the crowd. Chloe drops to her knees and pleads with Gothi to spare Adonis' life, offering her own in exchange. Gothi then shot her in the head, right in front of Adonis, and then ordered a firing squad to finish her off. The crowd erupts in cheers while Adonis screams in agony. watching the only person he ever cared about die before his eyes. In the end, Chloe's final wish is granted. Adonis is spared, but instead of freedom, he's thrown into maximum security at Mayhem Prison, branded a level SS threat, and locked away like a ticking time bomb. For 10 long years, he stewed in that cell. He spent every waking moment replaying that day in his mind, running endless simulations of the perfect way to destroy the empire that took everything from him. Every second was spent preparing for one thing: revenge. That chance came when a young witch named Doroka accidentally stumbled into his containment chamber while escaping capture. The guards tried to drag her away, but by then, Adonis had broken free, slaughtered the guards in seconds, and stepped back into the world that had long forgotten him. The Empire had no idea what kind of monster they had just unleashed. Adonis's revenge began with a massacre. Using his hybrid of magic and weaponry, he amplified a single bullet into something massive, big enough to crush buildings. The capital of Redia turned into a nightmare as Adonis unleashed destruction on everyone in sight. Civilians, soldiers, nobles, no one was spared. He summoned a massive mechanical weapon known as Bullet Bell and rained death across the city, laughing as he wiped out men, women, and children alike. He continued to push forward, spreading chaos and destruction. Every explosion, every scream, was just another piece of his vengeance against the world that took his mentor and left him to rot. But that's not the end of it. He later develops a close bond with Dorica. Through her kindness and resilience, he began to experience something close to peace. Their partnership brought a fragile sense of hope into his otherwise ruined existence. For a moment, it seemed like Adonis might finally find a reason to live beyond revenge. But the Kingdoms of Ruin doesn't deal in happy endings. In the final episode, that glimmer of hope is shattered when a sadistic cyborg named Shiro Usagi captures them. Adonis is forced to watch as Shiro Usagi rips Dorica's eyes out, torturing her in front of him. The scene mirrors his trauma with Chloe, another innocent woman destroyed right before his eyes. Dorica collapses, bleeding and blind, and Adonis snaps. Desperation turns into fury as he fights to save her. He burns her wounds shut and begs her to use a powerful spell on him, the Nightfall enchantment. The moment is cast, his body heals completely, his speed skyrockets, and his magic becomes limitless. Fueled by rage and power, Adonis goes straight for Shiro Usagi. The cyborg tries to run, but it's too late. Adonis summons the Quinn Blade, a weapon so deadly it slices through Shiro Usagi before he can react. What follows is one of the most brutal beatdowns in the series. Adonis rips off Shiro Usagi's limbs one by one, making him experience the same agony he inflicted on Dorica. But he doesn't stop there. He begins casting a spell Chloe once taught him, channeling her memory into the vengeance that defined his life. Shiro Usagi struggles to stop him, but Adonis blocks every attack and completes the spell. The temperature drops, the world goes silent, and everything freezes. Shiro Usagi, the city, the wasteland beyond, encased in ice. Shiro Usagi crumbles apart, piece by piece, until nothing remains. Kurenai's punishment. Eden Zero might look like another lighthearted space adventure at first, but that image fades fast once the story dives into its darker corners. Underneath all the sci-fi and galaxy hopping, there's a lot of pain, loss, and cruelty, especially when it comes to the character Kurenai. Her fall from power is one of the most twisted punishments in modern anime. Before everything went to hell, Kurenai was the ruler of Sun Jewel, a planet drenched in wealth and luxury for some, and misery for everyone else. She ran it like her personal playground, treating the poor and enslaved workers as disposable tools to keep her comfortable. The cruel irony is that Kurenai wasn't born into privilege. She clawed her way to the top by selling out her own daughter, murdering her husband, and then taking his throne as a tyrant. Once she got power, she made sure no one else would take it from her again, even if it meant crushing thousands beneath her heel. To the public, she played the role of a noble ruler, protecting her people from crime and chaos. But it was all an act. Behind the mask, she was sadistic and self-absorbed, using her wealth and influence to torment others for amusement. One of the most disturbing examples is when her assistant introduces her to a man named Cedric, a model applying to serve her as an attendant. She then orders him to get undressed, to which he obliged. At first, it looked like she might accept him. He flatters her, praises her beauty, and pledges loyalty. But the moment he reaches out to touch her face, she snaps, calling him vulgar for daring to touch her without permission. Kurenai grabs him by the face and burns him with her ether gear until his skin is scorched beyond recognition. She laughs while doing it, enjoying his screams like music. When he collapses, she casually orders her assistant to find another candidate, then decides to keep Cedric around as her pet, forcing him to wear a mask and leash to hide his ruined face. It's a perfect snapshot of how far gone she is: vain, violent, and addicted to power. Eventually, Kurenai's empire starts to crumble. Shiki and his crew arrive on Sun Jewel and tear through her robotic army, freeing the enslaved people and putting an end to her reign. With her forces gone and her authority shattered, she's finally captured. Shiki and Paul leave the final decision to Homura, Kurenai's estranged daughter who was abandoned years ago. Kurenai, ever the manipulator, tries to play the sympathy card. She pretends to feel regret, pretending she still cares for Homura and asking for forgiveness. But Homura sees through every lie. She rejects Kurenai completely, declaring that her true mother was Valkyrie, the warrior who raised and protected her. Instead of killing Kurenai, Homura spares her life and exiles her, choosing mercy over revenge. For a moment, it feels like Kurenai might escape justice after all. That illusion doesn't last long. As Kurenai flees through the forest, she starts laughing to herself, already fantasizing about her comeback and mocking her daughter for being so naive. But her arrogance comes crashing down when Cedric steps out from the shadows and slams her in the head with a metal bat. The hit leaves her bleeding and disoriented, and when she looks up, she sees something that actually terrifies her: a crowd of her former victims, the very people she enslaved and tortured, standing around her. Kurenai tries to insult them, mocking them for daring to lay hands on her, but they're done being afraid. Cedric hits her again, forcing her to the ground, and tells her exactly what her punishment will be. She won't be executed or imprisoned. She'll become their pet, just like she made him. It's brutal, ugly, and disturbingly poetic. Kurenai's screams and struggles don't change anything. The men pin her down as Cedric raises his bat again, breaking her leg to keep her from running. He calls it karma, and in a twisted way, that's exactly what it is. The woman who turned others into playthings ends up becoming one herself. The scene is hard to watch, not because Kurenai doesn't deserve it, but because of how far it goes. The series doesn't show what happens next, but the implications are dark enough to make viewers uncomfortable. For some fans, it's too much. They argue that Homura killing her would have been more fitting, cleaner, more direct, and less disturbing. Instead, Kurenai's fate drags her down into something worse than death: humiliation, degradation, and complete loss of control. And that's what makes this moment in Eden Zero stand out. Seras' Fury. Hellsing Ultimate is not an anime that believes in holding back. Everything about it is extreme. The blood, the carnage, the insanity, and it embraces all of that with a straight face. It's set in a world where a secret organization protects England from the undead, led by the ruthless vampire Alucard and his master, Sir Integra. Among their ranks is Seras Victoria, a former cop turned vampire, still trying to hold on to her humanity. But when she crosses paths with one of the Millennium's deadliest soldiers, all of that restraint goes out the window. The moment comes during Millennium's all-out assault on London. Their troops, a mix of vampire soldiers and psychopaths, tear through the city like it's nothing. Leading the charge is Zoran Blitz, one of the werewolf officers under the Millennium banner. Zoran is strong and sadistic, and we all know too well that combo leads to nothing but chaos. Her specialty is illusion magic, and she uses it to torment her victims by forcing them to relive their most painful memories before killing them. When Zoran leads an attack on Hellsing HQ, she turns it into a massacre. The mercenary group known as the Wild Geese, led by Captain Pip Bernadotte, puts up a fight, but Zoran's illusions make the battlefield a nightmare. People see things that aren't real, ghosts of their past, loved ones dying again, all while being cut down in real time. Pip and his team are on the verge of being wiped out when Seras arrives to help, but even Seras, who's seen plenty of horrors by this point, isn't ready for Zoran's power. The vampire uses her illusion ability to drag Seras back into her worst memory, the moment her parents were murdered right in front of her as a child. While Seras is stuck in that mental trap, Zoran slices her eyes open, drives a blade through her back, and cuts off her arm. Seras is left bleeding and broken, while Zoran prepares to finish the job. Then everything changes when Pip steps in to protect Seras. He charges at Zoran, but she skewers him with her scythe before he can land a hit. It's a quick, brutal death, and it snaps something inside Seras. She's had enough of holding back. With Pip's dying words echoing in her mind, she finally gives in and drinks his blood. That single act transforms her completely. Her wounds heal instantly, her missing arm reforms, and her eyes regain their sharp red glow. The calm, composed Seras Victoria is gone. What's left is a full-fledged vampire, overflowing with rage. From there, it's a massacre. Zoran's army doesn't even have time to react before Seras tears through them like they're nothing. Blood sprays everywhere as she rips enemies apart with her bare hands, crushing, biting, and smashing her way through the battlefield. The tables turn so fast that Zoran, the once untouchable illusionist, is suddenly the one fighting for her life. Zoran tries to use her illusions again, hoping to trap Seras one last time. But it's useless. Seras' mind is too far gone, too consumed by fury for tricks to work. She grabs Zoran by the head and smashes her straight into the wall. Then she drags her face across it at full force, grinding her flesh and bone away until there's almost nothing left. It's one of those scenes that makes even horror fans wince. Zoran stays conscious through the entire thing, feeling every shred of her skin tear away before her body bursts into flames and turns to ash. Hellgirl's Judgment. Hellgirl isn't your typical revenge story. It's more like an eerie blend of karma, curses, and cold-blooded justice wrapped in quiet horror. The series follows Ai Enma, a mysterious girl known as the Hellgirl, who appears only to those consumed by hatred. Her name spreads through whispers and rumors, with only the most desperate knowing the truth about her dark service. She'll take revenge on your behalf, sending the person you hate straight to hell. The method is as simple as it is disturbing. At midnight, a secret website called the Hell Link becomes accessible, but only to people carrying powerful grudges. Enter the name of the one you want gone, hit send, and Ai appears to you, usually after investigating both sides of the story with her supernatural team. If she accepts your request, she gives you a straw doll with a red string around its neck. Pull that string, and your enemy is instantly dragged to hell. But once your own life ends, you'll be joining them in hell too. No exceptions. That mix of revenge and consequence is what makes Hellgirl's Judgment one of the most brutal forms of justice in anime. Every case Ai takes has layers of human cruelty and desperation, showing just how far people can go when pushed to the edge. One of the most memorable cases is Namiko Todaka, a manipulative woman living a double life. On the surface, she's the perfect wife, married to a wealthy businessman, and an ideal mother who cares for her daughter, but behind closed doors, she's cheating on her husband constantly. When her neighbor, Keiko Yasuda, accidentally catches her in the act, Namiko goes completely unhinged. Due to her influence over the entire neighborhood, she begins spreading false rumors about Keiko's affairs with multiple men. And of course, her neighbors believe her. She starts harassing Keiko with the rumors, beginning to shatter Keiko's relationship with her husband. To make it worse, even her daughter is getting bullied in school for it. Namiko takes it further by hiring random men to barge into Keiko's home when her husband is away, and assault her to stage fake affairs, all to destroy Keiko's reputation. One day, Keiko's daughter Haruka comes home to find her mom collapsed on the floor with the gas left running. Thankfully, she saves her in time, but Keiko breaks down in tears, saying she's doomed because of Namiko. Haruka has had enough. That night, she opens the Hell Link and types in Namiko's name. Ai appears to her with the familiar black straw doll and lays out the deal. Pull the string and Namiko goes to hell, but the same fate will eventually come for Haruka when her time comes. The decision eats at her for a moment, but the memory of what Namiko did to her mother seals it. Haruka pulls the string. Then comes the real show. Ai and her team head to the Todaka residence. Rin, Ai's handsome assistant, appears before Namiko, and as expected, she starts flirting with him. Her husband walks in, catching them mid-seduction, and chaos unfolds. Rin suddenly transforms into Mr. Todaka, then another appears, and another, with all of them yelling at her for cheating. The entire scene warps into a nightmare where Namiko is surrounded by her friends in the neighborhood, while her husband's still shouting at her. Her daughter shows up next, calling her out for the shame that she's brought on their family. Namiko tries to explain through her tears, but everything she says is drowned out. Her friends begin to mock her ideal wife image as nothing but a fake facade. The guilt, the humiliation, and the fear close in until she snaps, screaming for everyone to disappear. They do, but the last person left is her daughter, who then transforms into Ai. Hellgirl delivers her cold sentence and ferries Namiko away. On the boat to hell, Namiko breaks down laughing, completely losing her mind as Ai tells her that hell may be bleak, but it's exactly where she belongs. The next story, though, hits even harder. Meiko Shimono is another monster in human skin. She's wealthy, cruel, and completely detached from sanity. Her life revolves around hoarding her inherited fortune, and she'll destroy anyone who gets in her way. One day, a young girl named Miki is walking her two dogs when they suddenly run into Meiko's property and attack her. Meiko twists the situation into a nightmare. she claims Miki trespassed and assaulted her, then kidnaps the dogs, holding them hostage and threatening to kill them if she doesn't follow her demands. Even after Miki does everything she told her to, the woman kills one of the dogs anyways. Pushed past her limit, Miki logs into Hell-Link and types Mako's name. Ai visits her with the same black straw doll, explaining the terms of the contract, but Miki hesitates. The next day, she goes back to Mako's house to serve her, unaware that she has been seen by her teacher, who wonders what she is doing in Mako's home. Miki endures when Mako beats her up due to the teacher's interference, while she insists that she didn't tell anyone about their setup. When Mako threatens to kill the other dog, Miki reaches for the straw doll to seal the deal, but stops when she hears Mako exclaim. Miki sees that her surviving dog just gave birth to puppies. For a brief moment, there's hope. Miki decides not to pull the string, but that mercy doesn't last long. The next morning, Miki finds her remaining dog poisoned. She's beaten again, helpless, all while Mako threatens to drown the newborn puppies. Miki's teacher arrives with the police, and they save her just in time. During the confrontation, Mako slips on the ground, revealing a horrific secret buried beneath her flower bed. The dogs had originally run into her property because they smelled something. Beneath the soil are the bones of Mako's own parents and child. She murdered them to inherit their money and killed her own child so that she can have all her wealth to herself. With her crimes exposed, Mako is arrested. Miki could have walked away from Ai's curse after Mako's arrest, but when she sees the drowned puppies in the bathtub, something inside her finally breaks. She decides to pull the string. What follows is one of Hellgirl's most twisted punishments. Mako sits inside of a police car, trying to play innocent until the officers around her morph into Ai's companions. Then a massive monstrous baby, resembling her dead child, looms from above the car. The officers transform again, this time into the dogs that she's killed. The horror overwhelms her as Ai appears to complete the job. Even on her way to hell, Mako is still obsessed with her money, begging Ai to send her back just to be with it. But when she looks into her reflection, her face is no longer human. It's warped into a bulldog's snout. The realization hits her just before she's swallowed by the darkness she created. And in that sense, Hellgirl's punishments are not the usual physical torments that we've seen in most anime shows in this list. It begins with psychological torture that breaks the mind. Before Ai even drags them to hell, she puts each sinner through their own personal nightmare, forcing them to relive their deepest fears until they completely lose it. Only after their mind snaps are they finally taken to hell, where the real punishment begins, burning forever in endless agony. Keyaru gets his revenge on Flare. Alright, let's be honest. This one's gonna stir the pot a bit since we are diving into some pretty messed up territory here. But you can't talk about brutal revenge in anime without bringing up Redo of Healer. This series is infamous for a reason. It's one of those shows where you almost feel guilty for watching it, because the revenge is so graphic and disturbing that it comes with a major content warning. The story follows Keyaru, a healing mage whose power lets him see the memories of those he heals. Unfortunately, that gift becomes his curse. His own party captures him, tortures him for years, and uses him in every imaginable way. The Jiroel kingdom is rotten to the core, ruled by Princess Flare, who basically is the source of all his suffering. She treats him like trash, drugging him, breaking him down mentally, allowing her knights to violate him, and turning him into a tool that she can command. But in a battle against the Demon Lord, Keyaru unlocks the true potential of his abilities and gets his hands on the Philosopher's Stone. Instead of handing it over to Flare, like he's supposed to, he uses it to turn back time, keeping his memories intact so he can rewrite everything and get his revenge on Flare and the entire kingdom. After confirming Flare's just as cruel as before, Keyaru puts his plan into motion. In the new timeline, he plays along like nothing's changed. He lets Flare imprison him again, pretends to be obedient, and even endures more abuse just to sell the act. But behind the scenes, he's stealing power from the people he heals, building up the strength he needs for payback. Once he's strong enough, Keyaru escapes, disguises himself as Leonard, Flare's top commander, and when he gets Flare alone, he strips away her magic, leaving her completely helpless. What comes next is rough. He starts breaking her fingers, one by one, while she screams. Then he makes this twisted deal. If she can stay quiet through the rest, he'll stop. She agrees, suffering through it in silence. But right when she thinks that she's won, he heals her hands and starts over. This time she screams because of how unfair the whole thing is, and she loses his sick game. What comes next is even worse. And we're not going to detail what happens, but let's just say that he absolutely makes sure that she experiences everything he went through in the original timeline. After that, he uses his healing magic to wipe her memories and change her appearance entirely, basically erasing who Flair was and turning her into his obedient servant. This anime isn't trying to win you over or make you feel anything except uncomfortable. It practically dares you to keep watching. It knows exactly how twisted it is and leans all the way into it. So if you got the stomach for revenge that's raw, unfiltered, and seriously disturbing, Redo of Healer is waiting for you. But don't say I didn't warn you.